Welcome to the ride with Wild Wayne Cartwright, an exciting thrill ride through the wonderful world of HBCU athletics. Before our trip begins, let's set a few ground rules. First, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Second, hit the like button. Third, please be sure to tell someone else about this show. Now that we've got these things out of the way, it's time for our journey to begin. Sit back, relax, and enjoy your ride.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to another episode of The Ride. And down the stretch they come. We're getting towards the end of the thing, and we got a lot to get into. So, you know, as we always say, if you have not subscribed, make sure you do that. What up, fellas? Glad that y'all joining tonight. What up, Teldrew? What up, my guys? Everybody out there. Hope everybody is blessed. Y'all know what we do. Let's fire it up. In the MEAC, it was a game that took place down there in DC with South Carolina State keeping it rolling. Howard was strong early, but then South Carolina State said, man, this is our lead. They flexed its muscles with a 38-14 win there in the nation's capital. Eric Phoenix again, 16-26. 272 and 3 more touchdown passes. Mr. Carter, Mr. High, all of the usual suspects. And then they harassed Jay-Sean Scroggins all day. They forced him to throw 3 interceptions, and they forced power turnovers in the process. South Carolina State is closing in on that MEAC championship. For Howard, the defending champ, will have to try to get back in the fold next year. They go to North Carolina Central on Friday night, and South Carolina State, big game up here in Baltimore as they take on Morgan State with a chance to clinch. And speaking of Morgan State, this was a game that was a shootout. This was 28-27, Delaware State going into the fourth quarter. And then Morgan State figured it out by getting 9 fourth-quarter points. Deuce Taylor, 17-28, 218 and a touchdown. Jason Collins Jr., another 100-plus yard game and a touchdown. C.J. Henry, very good game for the Hornets. They fought. They were game. The Hornets, this has been the theme of their season. You know, they've been a hard luck loser, man. They play some good games, but then, you know, sometimes down the stretch, they're not able to figure it out. And Jaden Sutton had a 65-yard touchdown run there in the third quarter that gave them the lead. But in the end, it was Morgan State staying alive with a 36-28 win. The big game that they host, South Carolina State next week, and then Delaware State, they get Norfolk State. Now to the SWAC, everybody. In Jackson, it was Jackson State keeping it rolling. This was their home finale, at least for now. The regular season home finale. How about that? Valley got out. They started a little strong. They had a lead. But, you know, a lot of us who know SWAC football, who know HBCU football and know Valley, shout out to Valley. You knew that this was probably not going to last. So Jacoby and Morgan and Irv Mulligan, again, 18 carries, 187 yards. Rolling. Another 100-yard game for Irv Mulligan as he's turning towards his 1,000-yard season. And for the fourth straight game, Jackson State held an opponent scoreless in the second half. 51-14, Valley 0-10. So they go to Florida A&M next week. It's not getting any easier. And Jackson State, big one on the road at Alabama State. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Speaking of the Hornets, oh my gosh. They fall down there in the hole 24-23. This game, I'll talk a little bit about it here as I go through the recap. This game, Alabama State squandered a huge opportunity. Green Key, 2 rushing touchdowns, kept him in the game, but he committed a crucial fumble there in the fourth quarter that gave Keelan Elder the chance to score the winning touchdown. Brandon Gilliam was solid all day, and then he missed a 28-yard field goal in the final minute. Grambling, 24-23. Very nice uniforms, Grambling. Loved it. That was a nice touch. For Alabama State, it's Jackson State coming to Montgomery. Grambling will be taking on my boys on Thursday night on the Hill. And I know everybody really was digging this one. Now, what I didn't like what happened after the game, but that's neither here nor there. Prairie View turned it up on FAMU. Now, Dane Richardson, he left this game with a concussion in the second quarter. And when he left the game, I mean, Prairie View was already in the lead at that point. But when Dane Richardson left the game and they turned it over to Junior Muratovic, it was pretty much a wrap. Muratovic threw 2 interceptions. One of them was a pick 6 and was harassed the entire game. Their offense just never could get in gear at that point. Shout out to Prairie View. Jaden Johnson, solid game, very effective. Lamaje McDowell, 2 big touchdown runs. And then James Burns, 117 yards and a touchdown. 31-12. Nobody saw this kind of margin. People thought it was possible for PV. Nobody saw that margin. Shout out to PV. 5-5 on the year, 3-3 in the SWAC. And PV, they get Alcorn coming in. FAMU, they get Valley. Hey, look at it. My team gets to win. Look at Donovan Eaglin, man. 24 rushes, 148 yards. 5 rushing touchdowns. They rushed for 356 as a group. Now, I got to apologize to my team. I picked against y'all. I didn't think y'all could get this one done against UAPB. I thought UAPB was going to be able to get this one done. You know what, man? Hey, I got to pull this one up. Where they walk away getting PB's playbook? Hey, man, I don't know anything about that. I just know that Donovan Eaglin and the running attack got it done, and they outgained UAPB. Look at it. 505 to 317. Makai Hagens struggled, 13 to 29 passing. They really had nothing going on the ground, and Javonte Gibson crossed the 1,000-yard threshold for the season. Congrats to him on that. But this was A&M's day, man. 52-24. Grambling comes to the Hill on Thursday, and UAPB visits Southern. And speaking of those Southern Jags, this game had everybody's attention. Overtime. This game was a 3-0 game. Bethune-Cookman led going into the fourth quarter. And then it went back and forth, and it ebbed and flowed. Cam Ransom was making plays. 243, 2 touchdowns in the air. Dennis Palmer, another solid rushing game. But you know what? It was that rushing attack. They struggled at QB. P-Set wasn't able to sustain and carry over from what he had in the previous game against my guys. But that's okay. That's why you got help. Kobe Dillon, 130 on the ground. Kendrick Grimes, another 92 on the ground. And how about the defense, man? 5 sacks, and they had to make multiple stops in overtime. Southern, 25-23 to stay in control of the West. And they take on UAPB next week. They're on the Bluff in their home regular season finale. Bethune-Cookman heads to Houston. And then, shout out to those big bad Braves, as my boy G likes to call them. Alcorn State 42-21 stays in the race. In this game, Xavier Vaughn was the man. 171 passing, but 130 on the ground with 2 touchdowns rushing. And they completely outgained TSU, 490 to 176. Despite committing 3 turnovers, they completely took control of this game in the second half, pulling away from Texas Southern. Texas Southern, they welcome Bethune. And then Alcorn, it's a big one because they need to win out. And they go to Prairie View. And that is what we got, y'all. that's the recap of all the games so far. So what we got tonight, we have so many things to talk about. But what I want to go back to is I want to go back to this game right here. And, everybody that's watching, talk to me as we go through this thing, man, because, it's just me with y'all tonight. I want to talk about this game, man, because Alabama State, and now, I've been saying that they have been playing with fire for a while. And what I mean by that is they were just enough offense for a while. It's just enough. Kareem Key, throw it a little bit. Don't do too much. Just don't turn it over. Turn it over to your defense. And that formula had been working. They had come out. They had won the last 3 games in a row heading into this one, and they had this game in control. It was 23-10 in the fourth quarter. But then things just happened, man. Kareem Key, after he had been, playing well for a while, he committed a key fumble while they were up 23-17 and running the clock. And that turnover around midfield, that gave Grambling the opportunity to take it down. Keelan Elder scored the winning touchdown. But this game was so crazy in the fact that Grambling, despite the fact that they had fought uphill all day long, finally got the lead, and then defensively on the last drive, which was even more crazy, defensively on the last drive, they played a prevent defense, and Alabama State hit them with the same play twice, a skinny post right down the middle of the field for 2 big plays that gained about 65 yards. Now, where I think this game really was lost. Now, you guys that watch this game, you can holler at me, you can agree with me or not. But I think where Alabama State lost this game, they lost this game in one way. I think when they got to the red zone there in the final possession, they elected to throw the ball 3 times. Now, that was the first thing I saw. They elected to throw it 3 times. Now, Grambling had 2 timeouts at that point, and this was about maybe 50 seconds left when they got to the red zone. And I thought that, well, on the first down play, the guy, their receiver was wide open. He just overthrew him, but credit to Grambling, they put pressure on him a little bit. But then the next 2 plays were not even close passes. And I thought that they missed an opportunity, because had they run the ball at least on first and second down, they would have had an opportunity to put a little bit more pressure on Grambling and force him to use those 2 timeouts. But then also, I think what was the fatal mistake for them was, and, shout out to Brandon Gilliam, because he's been a good kicker for them all year. But another crucial thing is, I saw a few comments where people said that they should have put the ball in the middle of the field for them. But I'm sorry, as a kicker, whether it's left hash, right down the middle, you got to kick, you got to make a 28-yarder, man. It's just that simple. You got to make a 28-yarder. Now, I don't want to be too hard on these guys, because Kareem Key was put into a position that was really difficult for him, and he has thrived in it. Because, without him, they're not in this game with his 2 rushing touchdowns and making some of the plays that he made. And also Brandon Gilliam, he kicked some field goals and he kept them in the game and added to it. So I do want to give them credit for that. But, if they're not able to win the SWAC East, which it looks like they're down to not do, they're going to really kick themselves in 2 phases. They're going to look at this game as one that they let get away. And then they can also go back to the game that they lost against FAMU back during their homecoming, when the fact that they weren't able to throw the ball at all. And eventually, when you go back to the well like they did, let's run the ball, let's put the ball in Key's hands, not do too much, turn it over to defense. Eventually, I had a feeling that they may get burnt. I didn't think that it was going to be yesterday, but eventually, you had a feeling that was going to be the case. But Tough loss for Alabama State, but they are still alive. All right. I see this here. SWAC coaches need to do a better job of getting the ball. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, but it is what it is, man, in that game. So I'll go over here. Now I'll go over here to the next one that I'll talk about. Let's talk about this game, y'all. Oh my gosh. FAMU. So in this game, we all, everyone saw Daniel Richardson went out of the game with a nasty concussion. And at the time, FAMU was making a game of it. Now, Prairie View got out 10-0. Then it was 10-3 at the time when Richardson went out. And when he went out, when I was watching it, I immediately just thought to myself, like, Junior Muratovic, I'm not sure, brother. And he proved it, because on that second drive that they had the ball, he threw that pick six. And even before that, he was in danger of throwing a couple of interceptions even before that. So Prairie View, I'd like to just say to these guys that they had a solid game plan. They said, we're going to run the ball, we're going to pound them, and also we're going to be opportunistic in the passing game. And they executed their game plan, man. And FAMU, I want to say to these guys that it's been a really solid run in your beginnings here in the SWAC. Now, I know a lot of people don't like their fans. I know a lot of people don't like their team because, they've come in and, they talk a lot, as they like to say, we brag different. But I wanted to say to FAMU that, that they've had a really good run here at games. But I also want to bring to their attention where it was said in a couple of SWAC groups when somebody had asked, how come FAMU? How come the only team that can beat FAMU in the SWAC is Jackson State? And ironically, right after that gets said, here you go. So, FAMU, you're not done officially, but you might as well be. And I'll go into those scenarios here in a bit for everybody. All right. And then let's talk about Southern, y'all. Now, I know, shout out to all my Southern fans. I know this game had y'all shaking and I saw all the comments, and I know some of y'all that were down there watching this. I know y'all were watching this game in person, like, what in the world is going on? And I kept looking at the score and looking at this thing going back and forth because it wasn't on SWAC Digital, so you couldn't find it. And I just kept checking the score, and I said, wow, 3-0 going into the fourth quarter. And I said, what is happening? Because I had just watched Southern play in person last week when I was down in Huntsville and they beat my team. And then I started to see that, this game started to get wild and they were going back and forth. And, there was some, Southern's defense had to step up, and they definitely stepped up. You needed to make stops. And sometimes, let me just say this to everybody. Sometimes along the way, when you're trying to win a championship, sometimes you got to have games like this. Games that you feel like you should be winning easily, but you play a team that is considered to be an inferior opponent, and they take you beyond 60 minutes. In this case, this thing probably went about 80 minutes. And so this is just something that Southern, they just need to look at. You pulled this game out. This is something that you can take from and you can learn from, because next week you're going to be playing a team that's probably along the same caliber with UAPB coming in, and which is a game that is a clincher for you. And so you look at things now for Southern, they just need to just continue to build. Because as they go, they're going to have to continue to find different ways every week to get a win, which they have been doing. And yeah, Teldrin, T-Set struggled, and he got pulled after he fumbled. Now, let me ask you guys this about T-Set, though. those that are Southern fans in here, do you believe that T-Set truly still is your guy moving forward, or are you afraid to go back to Noah? And then even Jalen Woods, he said, came in, he was on fire until he threw the interception. So what is it? Do you guys want T-Set, or is it Woods, or whatever? Or do you just want whoever it is that can help us win? You know, you can talk about that. And yeah, Dave, 5 overtimes is crazy, especially that's where the majority. Hey, you know what? That's where a lot of the points came from. You're right. 5 OTs is crazy. And this is the second 5 OT game that we've had in the conference this year, because you had the Prairie View and the Grambling one. So, you know, here, Crook, he said, whoever can help win the game. And he said, roll with T-Set. Okay. All right. Well, you know, for you guys, and I'll pull up their schedule. For you guys right now, this is where you're at. And I'm just going to say it like this to everybody. And I said this on my show Wednesday. The way the trend has gone here lately has been, it started right after that Texas Southern game. Alcorn, very good game. FAMU, not so good game. Alabama A&M, great game. Bethune-Cookman, not so good game. But you won. And so that means with this trend, it means that you should be able to go out and beat Pine Bluff pretty solidly, right? We'll see. We'll see. Now let's talk about those big bad Braves, y'all. So Alcorn. Hey, shout out to Xavier Vaughn, man. I mean, big game that he had yesterday. And this is a game that they needed to have. I mean, because they had lost to Texas Southern 2 years in a row. And this was a game where Texas Southern, they made this a dogfight for, into the third quarter. Yeah, here he says, yep, big bad Braves. And this is a game that they made a dogfight in the third quarter. Now, I know all the Alcorn Knights in here, I know that you probably were just like, man, we can't be having this again against Texas Southern. But then you guys put your foot on the gas and took off. And, you know, Vaughn with 130 yards rushing. And I'll tell you guys, this has been your formula. You know, some games you're just not going to get, many games you're just not going to really get the passing game there. You know, but you definitely going to get things done on the ground. And they got things done on the ground here. You know, Sewell was solid as well. So, you know, shout out to Alcorn State for getting this done, because had they lost, this would have been it, because with UAPB losing, Southern would have clinched the West. So true Alcorn Knight fan, and trust me, you not winning on our turf. Oh, including when Jackson comes in there in 2 weeks. Okay, all right. Hey, he said G get to be happy for 1 week. I think G had a nice sigh of relief. I think he slept real well. and he said, tell him, Stacia. I'm gonna pull that up. I'm gonna pull that up again. What you said there, Stacia. You said, trust me, you're not winning on our turf. Uh-oh. Hey, Will Wallace, he said, we gonna see about that in 2 weeks. Hey, Markwell said, G don't want no smoke. He said, Corn has turf. And said, if Morgan didn't get hurt, we had them last year. Well, you know, man, last year was last year, boy. This is a new one. He said, TC can't beat Alcorn. Uh-oh. Man, y'all getting it started already, man. Hey. All right. Okay. All right. I see y'all. He said, I wanted to see Texas Southern just so I could see full meltdown. G would have been knocking over tables. He said, Fred gone. Okay. Where Fred gonna go to, man? Oh, Fred's on. Yeah, I got you. But you know something, y'all, you know, the way things have been with the trends in the conference, you know, I know a lot of people they look in, and I'll pull up Jackson State as I make this next point. Now, I know that a lot of people feel that it's a mere formality that Jackson State is going to go ahead on and win the East. And I just want to make this disclaimer that I believe it as well, but I have to say this because for the sake of, the reality of our sport. The SWAC and really any sport, there are no guarantees. As much as we'd like to make them, there are no guarantees. Now, this was a game that we all knew that Jackson State was going to win, and they did, and they crushed them. But now you're going into a position now where you have 2 road games. And I'm going to say that these 2 road games, this is something that we've talked about at great length and had circled for at least 6 weeks. Well, really, I'll say for the last 4. After the Florida A&M game, we circled these last 2 games. And now this is where, if you're a Jackson State fan, an alum, this is where you call now. This is your winning time. And what I mean by that now in winning time, I mean by now, this is where you have to show your championship pedigree. And I mean this in seriousness because now every game that you're going to play, you're going to be playing an opponent that is going to be trying to end your season on a rough note. Now, Alabama State is an opponent that beat you last year in your house on homecoming. And I know, despite Alabama State's deficiencies on offense, they've been very opportunistic and they've been able to get some things done. And we know with the way their defense is, they've been able to play good enough defense to keep them in any game. But one thing that you have to understand, y'all, if you're Jackson State, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, the one team that can beat Jackson State is Jackson State. Because when you look at that game back there on September the 21st, that 41-20, that should be another reminder of how there are no guarantees in this thing. Because that night, and I know it off the top of my head, Jackson State outgained Grambling 483 to 271. But the biggest thing that made the difference was 5 turnovers, a pick 6, and a fumble return for a touchdown in the process. And then when you look at the game that you played against Florida A&M, you fumbled the ball 3 times and you threw an interception. And those 4 turnovers that were made in that FAMU game, down to the very last 4 minutes, the outcome was still undecided. So I just want to say to everybody that says that this is a mere formality, that it's over, that Jackson State's going to take this thing to the house, let's just remember that everybody said, mostly everybody said, except for Grambling fans, said that, oh, yeah, they're going to go down there and they're going to spank them. So you play the game on the field, you execute, you do what you're supposed to do, and then you will be champions. It's that simple for Jackson State. All right. Now, let's get into the scenarios for everybody. All right. So here is the SWAC East now up to date. And for those that have been keeping score at home, we've got a lot of this stuff here going, right? So Jackson State, they are now 6-0 in the conference. And if they win against Alabama State this week, it is over. They will clinch the East for the 3rd time in 4 years and will be on their way to the SWAC championship game. All right. And then you've got, I like that, G. Thank you. Everybody like the stream, y'all. And then also Alabama State. Now, had they kicked that field goal yesterday, this would be a whole lot different story. You know, a whole lot different story. 70 people watching, like the stream, y'all. Had they kicked that field goal yesterday and made it, this would be a whole lot different story. But since it was no good, this is where we're at. Alabama State, you need to win your last two games. And you need Jackson State to lose its last two. And you also need FAMU to lose at least once. That's the current scenario. And then here's FAMU. And I also want to say this. I know I had originally thought that they were eliminated, but then nope, they're not eliminated because there still could be a three-way tie at 6-2, which I will explain here on the next slide that I have available for you. FAMU is very simple for you. You can't lose another game. You need Alabama State now to help you. If you can believe that, you now need Alabama State to be your friend. You need them to win its last two, and you need Jackson State to lose its last two and hope for the tiebreaker differential, which is this. And I'm gonna put this up here in. Oh, sorry, I did it the wrong way. I'm gonna take myself off, or I'm gonna minimize myself here. Nope, I'm going to do it like this. There we go. Here we go. I knew I'd figure it out. Okay, so what I have on the screen for everybody, this is if we do get to a three-way tie, okay? And it would be in this situation, it would be a three-way tie at 6-2. All right, with all three teams, Alabama State, Jackson State, and FAMU being at 6-2, okay? Now, you can see what it is up top. That is the current policy for the tiebreaker for the SWAC. You can see A through H, okay? Now, you guys can look at A through H, and then now I'll explain it. These are the answers, okay? Head-to-head competition, all right? Under this scenario, if there was a three-way tie, all three teams would have beaten each other, okay? Now you go to B. Records of the teams tied in the division, all right? If you look at the teams, look at the teams in the division, you can see that all three teams will be 4-1 in the East. Okay. And then C, you go to the next one, head-to-head competition, blah, 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 so on and so forth. It's the same thing as A. Each of them would have beaten each other. Then you go to D, overall record versus non-division teams. All right. Each of them would be 2-1 against the West. All right. And then you go to E, the combined record versus all common non-divisional teams. Well, under this scenario, if you look at it, Jackson State and FAMU each beat Texas Southern. Alabama State has already beaten Alcorn, while Jackson State would have to lose to Alcorn. And then Alabama State will have to beat Prairie View. Jackson State will have to beat Prairie View. Meanwhile, FAMU will have already lost to Prairie View. So that means everybody will be 1-1 against common opponents. All right, now you go to F. You see what F is. It's the same as E. And so basically, bottom line, where you're going to be at that G, which is best point differential. So FAMU beat Alabama State 28-13. Jackson State beat FAMU 35-21. Alabama State under this scenario would need to beat Jackson State by more than 15 points. And last but not least, if Alabama State beats Jackson State by exactly 15 points and Jackson State loses to Alcorn and FAMU wins out and Alabama State also beats Prairie View, then it would go to H, which is a coin flip. And then there will be a coin flip between FAMU and Alabama State to decide the East. Whew. That's a lot. But you know what? I'll go back to this screen here. You know what? Let Al Davis tell you, Jackson State fans.
Just win, baby.
Just win, baby. That's it. Jackson State wins. We don't have to worry about all of that. All right. Now to the West. Now, now here's the thing, y'all. Here's the funniest thing. We always talk about the wild, wild West. The West has been so much simpler now because now the rest of the division is eliminated because that was made so when Southern got to its 5th win yesterday. And here's the thing. Now, Southern, I'm going to let Al Davis tell you again.
Just win, baby.
That's it. You beat UAPB, you win the West. Mess around and lose, and Alcorn wins at Prairie View. Well, now you go on another week. Now, Southern, you're going to be on a bye week next week. And then what that will do is you become sitting there watching Alcorn State against Jackson State, hoping that Jackson State can beat Alcorn. But if for some reason Alcorn wins its next 2 and you lose your last 2, Alcorn State goes on. Now, they cannot tie because Southern beat Alcorn head-to-head. So the only way it can work is Southern needs to lose 2 and Alcorn needs to win 2. And I tell you, if you're Southern, don't put yourself in a situation where you need to win the Bayou Classic to get into the SWAC championship game. Don't do that. Now I see people talking about has there ever been a coin flip? I have no idea. Oh, sorry. Has there ever been a coin flip decision in any conference in the past? You know what? As exhaustive as my brain is with this stuff, I've never heard of it before. Never have. It said it shouldn't even go to a coin flip. Yep. You win the games, you'll be just fine. You won't have to worry about that. Now, let me also show you too for the MEAC. Because the MEAC is pretty much, it's at its final stages too. Now, you know, these guys only play 5 conference games, you know, and I hope they do something about this in the future, y'all. They got to get more members into that league because playing 5 conference games, that ain't, no. But anyway, this is what we got. South Carolina State, they're 3-0. They play Morgan State in Baltimore this Saturday. If they beat Morgan State in Baltimore, they clinch the MEAC, and they'll be on to Atlanta. And their last game against Norfolk State, which they will probably win anyway, you know, that'll be just for fun. North Carolina Central, because they lost the head-to-head to South Carolina State, they need a Morgan State win, and they need South Carolina State to then lose the next game as well. So they need to win out, and they need South Carolina State to lose out. And then Morgan State. Now, they already lost to North Carolina Central. They lost to them 16-7 3 weeks ago. So Morgan State, they need to win this game on Saturday, and they need to hope that there's a 3-way tie. Now, their scenarios are pretty much similar to the way our scenarios are. I have not looked those scenarios up because I'm pretty confident from what I've seen from South Carolina State that they're going to be able to get this thing done because they've been very, very impressive. And if you have not watched this team play in South Carolina State, you need to do so because these guys, man, Chennis Berry is building a pretty solid team, y'all. And no matter whoever it is that comes out of the SWAC, which it looks like it's Jackson State at this point, I think that'll be a really good celebration bowl, but this is a team that you need to pay attention to. They have 4 solid receivers and they play really, really good defense. So, yeah, that's the clinching scenario in the MEAC. So shout out to everybody in the MEAC. Now, which teams do you think should move to the MEAC? Well, hey, that's a good question. And everybody that's here in watching, you know, I know y'all talk about this all the time. I know some of the obvious ones that people like to say, hey, North Carolina A&T, why don't you take your tail on back to the MEAC since you're getting your behind kicked in the CAA? And they lost again yesterday, by the way. They're headed towards a 1-win season. So that's one team I think should possibly go back. Hampton, possibly, because they're in the CAA also. But also, I think, too, I think that if there's any other teams, that maybe there are some teams that are in the SIAC, maybe like a Clark, I don't know, that maybe wants to move up. That's maybe another opportunity. Because as much as people talk about Tennessee State possibly moving over, I don't really see Tennessee State moving over to the MEAC, even though a lot of their fans and alums, they want them to play more HBCU teams and not play the competition that they play in the, in the Big South OVC. So, yeah, that's just kind of where it is. Say there's a rumor that A&T and Tennessee State are talking to the MEAC. Of course, we've heard that. Say you're hearing that Tennessee definitely will be in the MEAC. Well, that hasn't been confirmed, but I'm not sure about that. But hey, if it's out there, maybe cool. I think it'd be fine for them. But again, that has to be confirmed. And then the MEAC needs to move to the SWAC. So what you want a 17-team league, a 16-team league? Well, they already have 8 schools. I mean, they just have 5 of them playing football. They have 3 others that don't play football that are in that league. So, you've got Coppin State and Maryland Eastern Shore, and man, the other school slips my mind at this point. But yeah, so that's what we got. All right, now I want to go back. Now, and I want to hand out my ride tokens, y'all. Here's my ride tokens for week 11. All right, Donovan Eaglin, you can't not be on this list when you get 5 rushing touchdowns. Now, for those that are just tuning in and watching my show for the first time, the only way you can get a ride token is your team has to be victorious. So there's been a lot of guys that have had big performances in losing efforts. But my rule is your team has to be victorious for you to get on this list. So Donovan Eaglin, 24 rushes, 148 yards, 5 touchdowns. He gets on this list. Lamaje McDowell. Now, I know somebody will look at his stats and they say, well, Wild Wayne, he only had 43 yards rushing. Well, it was when he got his business done. And also, did you see the run that he had when he trucked 2 FAMU defenders in the red zone? Just go back and look at that. But he had 2 rushing TDs in the 4th. So shout out to Lamaje McDowell. Also, Quantre Harry, South Carolina State. He's our defensive ride token this week. 2 interceptions in the winning effort for South Carolina State. And then, oh, man, Brandon Gilliam, had you made that kick, man, you would have gotten, for the second time this year, you would have gotten a ride token. But because Alabama State was not victorious, I got to go back with my man Sarr from Morgan State. He kicked two field goals, including the go-ahead field goal in the 4th quarter. All right, so those are the ride tokens this week. All right. And then before I get into the schedule of next week, let's go back to some of these comments. So it said Virginia Tech should move up to the MEAC. Well, I don't know. It depends on their financial structure. It said a 16-team league would work. Take away divisions. Use the pod system. And then here, check on them DB. You're right. Yep, check on them DBs because Lamaje, he ran both of them over. And yeah, Irv Mulligan, he's been on my list here twice already. He was on my list actually 2 weeks ago on my show. He actually made it 2 weeks in a row on my ride tokens, and I really wanted to give him another ride token for his stellar effort again, but he's been on my list, man. So I tell you what, DJ, if he does another big game here in Alabama State, he'll probably get, and you guys win, he'll get on my list. How about that? He said, Doc, them DBs, they're in the hospital. Man, I'm telling you, man, Lamaje ran them boys over. All right. Now, let's talk about next week, y'all. This is what we got. All right. Week 12 schedule. Okay. We'll start with the MEAC first. You've got on Friday night on ESPNU, you've got the Howard Bison going to visit Durham to take on Central Eagles. And then you've got Delaware State going to take on Norfolk State. And this appears to be the farewell tour for old Big Worm, Dawson Odoms there in Norfolk State. Then you've got South Carolina State, the big one. This is a big one for South Carolina State because this is the potential clinching game for them to win the MEAC as they visit Morgan State. So you've got a Friday game on ESPNU, and then you've got the other two games on ESPN Plus. Then in the SWAC, we've got another loaded calendar. It starts off on Thursday night. My boys, Alabama A&M, in our home finale, we host Grambling on ESPNU. And then the HBCU Go game this week will be Valley. Shout out to Valley as they try to get on the board again. They go down to Tallahassee to take on what should be a very pissed off FAMU Rattler team. And it'll be left up in the air to see if Daniel Richardson can go or if they have to go back with Junior Moratovic. And then on SWAC Digital Network, this is a clinching game for Southern as they host UAPB. So UAPB comes to the Bluff. All right. This is the home regular season home finale for Southern. All right. So UAPB comes to the Bluff. And then down there in Houston, down there in Shell on SWAC Digital Network, you got Bethune-Cookman making another trip across the country to go down there to Houston to take on those Texas Southern Tigers. All right. Bethune-Cookman, hard luck loser yesterday, but they go back on the road to take on Texas Southern. And then you've got another big one. I know I got versus. That's I've got Alcorn going down to visit Prairie View. This is a big one now for Alcorn because this is Alcorn's basically, we went over the scenario. They need to win out. So this is a visit that they got to take, and they need to win this game. Prairie View, as you saw yesterday, they not about to roll over and let you have it for free there, Alcorn. So that's taking place on ESPN Plus. And then last but not least, the game of the week, where you've got Jackson State hitting the road, coming to the Gump, or as I like to say sometimes, folding chair city to take on Alabama State. Again, this is a big one because Alabama State, they need this one. This is a game that they have to have if they want to stay in the race for a chance to win the East. Again, if Jackson State wins this game, they will clinch the East division of the SWAC. All right. So just taking a look at those games, everybody, you can put your picks and put your thoughts. I know we've got, I like this, man. I love this. Yep. We got HBCU football Thursday through Saturday. Yes, we do. And he says, I got Valley by 1. Man, stop it. By 1 what? And yeah, Jackson State fans, look at it. Let's go PV. And FAMU scoring 70 on Poor Valley. No, man. No. They're not going to do that to them. They're not going to hurt them boys like that now. They're not going to do them like that. All right. Revenge game for North Carolina Central. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because Howard, oh my gosh. Yeah, that was, now you want to talk about surprises from last year about how there's no guarantees. Now, everybody thought that for the world, including me, that North Carolina Central was well on their way on a cakewalk headed to the Celebration Bowl. And then Howard put a 50-piece on them there in D.C. So, yeah, revenge game for North Carolina Central. All right, back to the SWAC here. Said, let's go UAPB. Yeah, that's right. If you're an Alcorn fan, you better be rooting for UAPB, but you also better take care of your own business. He said, let's go PB and PV. He said, let's go Valley. You know what, man? I'm going to tell y'all this right now. I'm a little bit nervous because, you know, the last game that Valley has, my boys, we got to go down there. And the last time we went down there, they were also winless and they picked us off. So I'm, you know, hey, you know, shout out to Valley. Shout out to Valley. He go, JSU by 30. We ain't losing to these boys. So y'all ain't BSing with these boys this year. Okay, by 30. Okay. Said, fam, you better not put 70 on JSU, little brother, or as our boy Unc like to say, my first cousin. Again, Valley will upset FAMU, man. Y'all going in, boy. Y'all don't like FAMU at all, man. Y'all. He said, let's go Green Valley. Y'all got me, man. I'm sitting up here rolling, man, laughing at this stuff, man. Y'all talking about Valley. But you know what, man? Way this year has been, you know, it's just something that we have to we just have to say that this has been turns and up and downs and roller coasters, you know, hence like the title of my show, man, The Ride. It's been a wild, wild ride this year in football. And then Peasy, what's up, Peasy? Shout out to you, brother. Big Bad Braves. Yeah, y'all need it. Say Valley better not win, fam. You gonna make a G melt. And then Alcorn will play hard against PV. Yeah, it's gonna be a tough game. Well, you know what? You know, historically, you guys have Alcorn has played pretty well down there. You know, I know Alcorn, if I'm not mistaken, yep. Last time you guys played them, I think it was on a Friday night. Now I remember it was on a Friday night. And Alcorn got the win down there. So you do have that going in your favor. Said Valley did play us hard. Hey, Valley played y'all as hard as they could, man. And then they used up all them bullets real fast. Say, y'all mighty quiet, fam. You speak up for yourselves. Hey, man, you know what? I don't think they want to talk. I think they just want to be left alone to heal in silence. And said, fam, you leave our little brother alone, win the game by 7 and go home. And then you got G in Vance. I'm sorry to let you down. Well, you know, man, you never know. You never know. Hey, everybody that's watching, make sure y'all like that stream, man. Like the stream, y'all. And also, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe because we're doing some real big things here on this channel, man. Valley played us hard for 5 minutes. Yeah, you know, they tried to knock y'all out in the first round. And, you know, sometimes you can tire yourself out when you try to throw all your haymakers too early. He said PB need to be trying to steal somebody else's playbook for a change. So what? So all the Alcorn fans wishing that UAPB would steal a Southern playbook? Yeah, you know, hey, we'll see. All right, here's the standings updated to the date, y'all. All right, now you can see we've got the E for eliminated. So if you have an E next to your name, you're eliminated. All right, here's the East. You can see it one more time. You got Jackson State leading the way there with a 6-0 record. And then you see Alabama State. And you have FAMU still alive. And for my team, Alabama A&M and Bethune-Cookman and Valley, there is always another year. And in the West, you can see that it is now just a 2-horse race. As the title of this show is, down the stretch they come. You've got Prairie View, Texas Southern, Grambling, and UAPB. Everyone there, they're all eliminated. And so you see Southern sitting there with a chance to clinch this week, and Alcorn needs to win to stay alive. And then in the MEAC, the only team that's been eliminated thus far is Delaware State. Officially, is pretty much, you know, as you like to say, is life support for Howard and Norfolk State, and then Morgan State and North Carolina Central, they still have a chance. But Morgan State needs to win the game this week against South Carolina State, and that's the only way that can happen. So, so that's what we got. All right, y'all making me laugh here. Said, who was accused of stealing UAPB's playbook this week? You know what, man? I ain't got nothing to say. Because let Sonic Boom tell you, he said that I was gonna be the co-OC last week. Well, I ain't had nothing to do with it. I'm just gonna say it. You know, I ain't got nothing to say on that. Because I was pleasantly surprised that we went in there and we put it to them boys. Right? I couldn't believe it. Now, here's some of the stuff. Said, who's accused? Said, Alcorn gonna have to find that playbook for PB. He said, ask SWAC and the food. I know you got connections. AG, you got connections. And yeah, FAMU is more on life support. Yeah, it's life support. You right. Y'all, man, y'all funny, man. And we don't know nothing. We just played the game. And yeah, why ain't FAMU bragging today? And you know what? Let me just say this. Let me say this while everybody's here. Okay. That situation that happened at the end of the game with the band, man, we got to be better than this now. FAMU got to be better than that, man. Now, I know when you go, now, I'm not the only person who participated in team sports. I know that there are multiple people here that participated in team sports as well. And FAMU bragged against their band members. I'm not the only one who participated in team sports. And you know, when you go on the road, you know that the fans are going to say stuff. You know, they're going to heckle you. They're going to say a lot of different things. Okay. But you got to be able to win with grace, and you got to be able to lose with grace as well. And for something like that, man, that is an ugly stain that is going to be brought up, because you know how people are. They're going to bring it up anytime that is convenient. And that was not a good look, man. And I hope that somebody is the bigger person and comes out with some apologies and being very transparent, man, because that was ugly. That shouldn't happen. And that's not a good look for not just yourselves. That ain't a good look for HBCU athletics as a whole. I know y'all like to say that was them folk. Nah, you know how folks are, man. Folks like to lump us all together. You know, you talking about FAMU acting like they have some sense. Well, you know, I gotta say it. And they said, well, you know, they couldn't beat the football team, so they had to win against one of them. Yeah, you know, hey, but this is where it is right here. You don't go after civilians. Amen to this one. You don't go after no civilians, man, because look, I was living in Detroit when they had the Malice in the Palace. You know what happens when athletes go up in them stands. It's bad business. Bad business. So that's all I'm saying. That shouldn't have happened. And lastly tonight, I also want to say that prayers, and also just thinking about everybody down there, about what happened down there at Tuskegee last night. I know a good amount of Tuskegee alums as well as everybody else does. I just want to say that, you know, what's been taking place at some of the homecomings, where there's been shootings either on the campuses or in the vicinities. This is something that's not good either. And I just really hope that moving forward that we can find a way. I know that there's been some commentary out there where people said that, well, they should possibly regulate homecoming to only be for alums and not outsiders, because a lot of times some of the violence has been correlated to some of the outside people that didn't have anything to do with the universities. And yeah, but I don't know how you regulate that. I just say as a whole, as a blanket statement, that this stuff can't continue. People are coming out to have a good time. When you come into a homecoming, or just for that matter, you come into a ball game, just like in the sense of PV yesterday with FAMU, you come into a ball game. You're not coming out here thinking that, that it's going to be fighting or it's going to be any kind of violence. So that's something that we can't have, man. So let's just continue to pass the word around and spread the messages, y'all. But on a brighter note, next week is the penultimate week of the regular season, at least the full regular season. This week, I will be back with my wild picks on Wednesday, and I want everybody, when you come on, remember that, come on and let's just hang out like we've been doing right here, man. We hanging out, we having a good time, we just talking. It's for the culture. And we're going to do our picks, and we're going to talk about, some of the different trends, and we're going to see how it rolls out, right? So, yes. Thank you. And prayers for Valley too. Yeah. About the player that passed away in the auto accident. Yeah, we don't want to forget about that. Thank you for bringing that up. Make sure you remember this gentleman as well, and also the Valley family. Very nice touch, Jackson State captains yesterday during the coin toss, coming and surrounding love around the Valley captains. Appreciate that. That was a really, really nice touch and a great thing to see. So yeah, that's what we got, y'all. So I have fun. I hope everybody had fun tonight. Make sure you like the stream and also subscribe, man. Subscribe to the channel. We doing something big. It's the ride, y'all. See y'all.
Thank you for joining us on the ride with Wild Wayne Cartwright. As you exit the ride, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, hit the like button, and catch up on all of our prior episodes. Until next time, God bless.